Hello everybody, it's Mr. Barry here again. Hey, we're gonna go ahead and hop into the next section in our textbooks, 8-5. We're gonna get into finding common factors for expressions. Okay, we've done common factors before. You guys have seen that in junior high, elementary years, but now we're gonna get into throwing some variables in there and essentially it's still the same concept, but just taking it one step further. Okay, so in order to figure out what the greatest common factor of an expression, what's the greatest common factor, you have to know the factors of each thing. Okay, so what that really means, for example, if I give you, let's just do the numbers 12 and 20. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and just list the factors of 12 and 20. So for 12, it's going to be 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. Okay, then if we go to do factors of 20, 1 and 20, 2 and 10, and 4 and 5. Okay, so those are the factors for 12 and 20. So if we want to find the GCF stands for greatest common factor. Okay, so we're wanting to find the GCF of all these expressions. So just by looking at the numbers 12 and 20, we can tell that our GCF is this number 4. See how 4 appears on both lists? So our GCF of 12 and 20 is 4. Alright, let's take a look at this example here. So we have 8p squared minus 2p. Alright, so the first thing we want to do is look at our coefficients that are in front. So 8 and negative 2. Okay, so we want to find factors of 8 and 2. 8 and 2. So for 8, it's just going to be 1 and 8. 4, and for 2, it's just simply 1 and 2. Okay, so which number shows up on both of those lists? Well, obviously, this 2, and it is our GCF. Right? GCF equals 2. Alright, so from that 8 and the negative 2, we can pull out a positive 2. Right? So pull out the positive 2, and then let's go ahead and look at the p's now. So we've got a p squared right here. Right? P squared here, and then a p. Alright, so we need to figure out the highest amount of p's that we could pull out of that expression. Okay, well, what's our exponent of the second p here? 1. Okay, so each part of the expression has an exponent of at least e to the first power. Okay, so we can also pull out just a e. Okay, so that's just finding the greatest common factor part. But now we need to factor the rest of it out. Okay, so 2p is our GCF of this entire expression. 2p. Now, what we need to do is figure out what is left. So very similar to how we multiplied, the opposite of multiplication, which is division. So now we're going to divide. Okay, so we're left, here we go. I'll use my mouse so y'all can see. Okay, so I'm going to take this term right here, this 8p squared, and divide it by 2p, our greatest common factor that we had factored out. Okay, So let's just do the coefficients first. So 8 divided by 2 is going to give me, let's do a different color. Okay, 8 divided by 2, which is 4. Okay, and then remember, if your variables have the same bases, so they both have the same base of p, okay, and we are dividing, so we subtract those exponents. Okay, so now p squared divided by just p, or p to the first, okay, is just going to be simply p. P to the first, or just p. Okay, now let's go to the second part. So now we're looking at this negative 2p divided by this 2p over here. Okay, so let's just do the coefficients first. So negative 2 divided by positive 2 is negative 1. Okay, and then we have p to the first divided by p to the first. Well, those just cancel out. Right? So if those cancel out, I'm just left with that minus 1, and that's it. Right? So if I'm going to factor out a common factor out of this entire expression, okay, my final answer is just going to simply be 2p, and in parentheses, 4p minus 1. My final answer. Alright, let's take a look at another example here. So here we have the expression 42n cubed plus 12n squared. And we're going to be factoring out a common factor just like we did on the previous one, except for our numbers are a little bit higher. Okay, so now I want to look at the coefficients in front, so 42 and 12. Okay, I'm going to find the factors of 42 and 12. We can find what the GCF, that greatest common factor. Okay, so 1, 42, 2, 24, 6, 7, 3 would work too, but let's 6 and 7. Let's stop there. Now let's take a look at 12. 1, 12, 2, 6, and 3 and 4. Okay, so now with our factors that we've gotten from both of those, now we can figure out which factors are the same. Okay, so obviously we see 2. 2 would be just a common factor. What other number appears on there? Well, here we see it. It's 6. Okay, so our GCF of 12 and 42 is 6. Okay, so with that being said, we can pull out a 6 for sure from that expression. Okay, now just by looking at these here, the n cubed and the n squared, right there and right there. Okay, I'm looking for the lowest amount of n's that I could pull out of there, the lowest exponent of n that I could pull out. So in this case, it's going to be this one here. This n squared is the lowest value of n that I could pull out. Okay, so n squared is also something I can pull out. Alright, so my GCF of this expression oh my, program does not like me today. Okay, fine. I'll put it down here. GCF equals 6n squared, right? 6n squared, that's what we are able to pull out of that. Okay, so now what we have left, okay, just like we did on the other one, we're going to divide this now. So 42n cubed divided by 6n squared. Okay, and that's going to give me, well, 42 divided by 6 is 7. And then subtract the exponents. So n cubed minus n squared is just going to be n. Okay, and then here we go. 12 divided by 6 is 2. And the n squareds are going to cancel. So this right here is going to be my final answer. Alright, this example here, we have two different variables. We're dealing with a and b. Okay, but same thing, we're still trying to find that GCF that we can pull out of this expression, that we can factor out of it. Okay, so just going to look at the coefficients in front of all the variables. Right, so 4, 14, and negative 20. Okay, I'm going to look at those and figure out what my GCF is. Okay, well, I know 2 goes into 4, right? 2 goes into 14, and 2 goes into 20. Alright, so is there anything higher that would go into those numbers? Well, 3 obviously is not going to work. How about 4? Okay, well, 4 goes into 4, sure, but 4 doesn't go into 14, so 4 is not a GCF. So that means that our GCF in this case is just going to be 2 right now. GCF is 2. Okay, now let's go ahead and take a look at our variables. See, we have in our first part here, our first term, we have an a cubed. Okay, do I see any other a's? Well, I see one there, but not one here. Okay, so I cannot factor out an a. How about b's? Well, I see a b in this one, but no b in this one, and no b there. So the only thing that I can factor out of all of this expression is just simply this 2. Okay, so if I factor out the 2, okay, GCF of 2, now all I'm going to do is divide. Okay, so here we go. I have 4 right here. 4 divided by 2, which is 2. Okay, and then since I don't have any A's or B's in front of this as a GCF, I'm just going to bring those down. Okay, so A cubed, B squared. Okay, now I'm going to move to the middle term. So this 14, positive 14 divided by 2, which is 7. And since I don't have any A's here, I'm just going to bring down the A right here. And the last term, negative 20. Negative 20 here divided by 2 is negative 10. Okay, and that would be my final answer. My GCF of 2, and I've factored it out of the expression. Okay, let's take a look at this example. Okay, so first I want to find the GCF. So I'm going to look at the numbers, 27, 63, and 9. Okay, I'm going to factor out each one of those, but to save time, okay, I know that I can pull out a 3 out of each one of those, but that's not the greatest. The greatest common factor that I can pull out of there is actually this 9 over here, because 9 is divisible by all 3 of those. Okay, so if I factor out a 9, can I pull out any variables, such as an m or an n? No, I really can't, because not all the terms in there have an m or an n. Okay, so the only thing I can factor out is a 9. So what I have left, okay, 27 here. 27 divided by 9 now is 3. And since I don't have any m's or n's, I'm just going to simply just bring these down. Squared. Okay, now I'm going to look at 63. 63 divided by 9 over here, which is 7. So plus 7. Bring down the m cubed. And then simply 9 divided by 9, which is positive 1. Okay, and that is it. That's all we have to do for that. Alrighty, and that's it for today's video. If you have any questions, don't be afraid to send me a message, email, remind. Stay safe, go Braves.